Everybody, welcome back to the 87th episode of Taps and Patience, the podcast that is slowly becoming a musical. You'll understand later. I am AJ with Audacity Micro here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi, Harrison.
How we doing?
I'm doing all right. I have a new phone now.
Nice. What kind of upgrade plan did you go with?
If I taco it, I buy a new one plan.
Did they qualify for trade-in?
No. Well, I don't know. I guess I never tried. For the last couple of phones, I've just bought refurbished ones off of Amazon because they are way cheaper. And
Gotcha.
So I have a new refurbished one. Though I'm so annoyed. I might have to send it back. I bought an unlocked one. It was advertised as unlocked one. The unlocked ones cost like $30 more than the ones that are locked to specific carriers. And it came in and it is not unlocked. It is locked to T-Mobile and I have AT&T.
Oh, that is very annoying.
So there is a chance that I can bring it to T-Mobile and they will replace it, or not replace it. They'll unlock it for me. Otherwise, I'll have to send it back to Amazon and, wait for it to get there and then wait for them to send me a new one.
Yeah, that's annoying.
But for today, at least, I have a phone. I'll find out tomorrow if they can unlock it.
You have I
have an iPod Touch. Yeah.
Yeah, iPod Touch. So, fair enough. What else you got going on?
So I'm making some parts now. There were 3 relatively complex, relatively high dollar value parts. They're nothing too crazy. They're not too small. The only thing on them that's too bad, other than some tight tolerances, is they have a slot that is like 1 millimeter wide. And I think depending on the part, one of them is like 13 millimeters long or deep, I mean, and the other one's like 9 millimeters deep.
Gotcha.
But I'm able to get those with a slitting saw from the side. So
that's nice.
I finished up one of them today, and that was a fairly normal, just do it all in a vise kind of part. This next one is going to be fun because the slots are at a 45-degree angle. So I get to figure out how to fixture that at a 45-degree angle. And I think I'm just going to make soft jaws. And
yeah, I was going to say, soft jaws should be your best bet. Is there anything you can attach to on the parts?
Think of it like a popsicle, where the 45-degree angle cuts are at the juicy side of the popsicle, the part that you lick, and I can just grab it by the stick, which is a nice clean rectangle.
Gotcha. Is it something that you could grab by the stick and then like dial it? Like, how many of these are you doing for starters? I guess
one, but it has 2 slots 90 degrees to each other, so I basically have to fixture it twice.
Yeah. Could you fixture it using like a precision level, grabbing onto that stem and get it angled just right, cut it, and then so you wouldn't even need to build anything. You just need to tap it in and run an indicator or something.
That way.
Okay.
Yep. So
not a fan of that method, but I've done it.
Yeah. I'm going to do soft jaws because none of my vices are that big, and so it wouldn't have very much room to grab on.
Gotcha.
But I can knock out soft jaws quick, and that'll be fine.
You'll have to turn your soft jaws up on end, though, right?
I can just surface them.
Yeah. Well, won't that leave like a shelf radius, though? Don't you have to turn them up? Because
I'll just put a slot on that sharp corner there.
Oh, okay.
Like a V-block. Have you ever seen a V-block? They've got like the angles. Then at the bottom, they've got a slot.
I'm not talking about that. If you're trying to interpolate an angle, if you're not straight on.
No, yeah, you're right. I could relieve that. I've done that before, like with the ball mill. You just cut deeper. You do a slot along the side.
You still have to unbolt it and move it to do it.
No, you wouldn't.
How do you undercut? Because it doesn't matter what angle you go, unless you got like a lollipop or something.
So if you just cut farther down, like if you go down a radius of the tool on the side, I can show you the CAD model. It's possible. It's maybe
Okay.
not time efficient, but it's possible.
I'll have to see what you're talking about because I am not picturing this, but okay. Interesting. I didn't think that was doable.
Yeah, it's doable. I've done it before.
Fair enough. I guess it depends on the geometry of the part.
I mean, the part I'm grabbing is a rectangle. Like,
yeah.
No fancy geometry, except some holes in it.
Yeah, then I still don't know how you do it, but we can get back to that at a later date and just assume it's possible at this point. Cool. Well, that'll be fun. And then you got any other work coming up?
Yeah, I have like 3 or 4 big jobs lined up for July.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4, including the one I'm working on now. One of them, I
was going to say, what classifies it as a big job? Is it like big parts, big volume, big payout, or all of the above?
I don't know. I don't have a metric. It seems like a big job in my head.
Okay.
One that'll take me more than a day. I don't know. Maybe that's a good metric.
Okay.
Big, yeah. Anyway, one of them is 120 little plastic parts. Those are basically, I'll just be making a cylinder and then salami slicing them off, and then they get a little bit of an operation on the side. Some of them are some really simple, just kind of blocks with holes. And then the last one, and this is the biggest one by far, it's 9 parts out of beryllium copper that are kind of, I don't know how to describe them. They're all like sticks with other sticks coming off of them.
Gotcha. Like a Christmas tree or something?
Or
is it an oak tree?
I sent you, like a music note. A music note is a good way to describe it. A music note, or like a bent music note, maybe.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they're all relatively similar. There's 9 different parts on this order. They're all unique. 3 of them are pretty simple ones that I can either tab off or cut a thin piece of material and superglue method it. The other ones are the weird music note looking ones. And
gotcha.
I don't know. I think all of those are 3 operations. I haven't programmed yet, so I'm not super sure.
Gotcha.
It would be really nice to have a 4th axis for these.
Yeah.
So those will be fiddly, but that one job will be half my income for the month. So Sweet. It can take me 2 weeks and be fine.
Congrats.
That was one of those where they, like, Xometry was asking for basically nothing, and I gave them like a stupid number, and they immediately came back and were like, yes. I should have asked for more.
Yeah. You were the cheapest.
That could have been a month's worth of income.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm not gonna lie, I was stressed out last week hard. And then I became less stressed at the end of the week. So
that's good.
We're speaking
That's good, I suppose.
Yeah.
Were there reasons for you being less stressed, or did you just like get acclimatized?
So this big job we're working on, we missed the cutoff date to order our tools on Monday. And so we're like, all right, it's no big deal. We've got everything we need. Let's get it all ordered the next day. We didn't order it right away the next day. And at 3:00 or shortly after, we're like, all right, it's getting close to the end of the day. There's nothing else we want to add to the order. Because that's the main reason we didn't order it right away is we're like, hey, let's think about it. If there's any other tools we'll add them in. And we go to place the order, and a lot of it was Harvey tools. And apparently the cutoff time for Harvey tools is 3:00 Central.
Oh, no.
And we missed it by like 15 minutes.
Oh, that sucks.
And so we lost another day. And then we went ahead and placed the order, but placed it overnight red. But it didn't show up the next day. So they ended up coming on Thursday when we tried to order them on Monday. So we
And they were
lost.
supposed to ship. The parts were supposed to ship what day?
So we were trying to get them the early prototype versions as soon as possible
Okay.
because they gotta inspect them. They gotta CMM and some other equipment that they're gonna inspect them with, and we got to get them to the anodizer. Anodizers are only open Monday through Thursday, so we got our tools on Thursday, and we didn't meet the cutoff time to drop them off. So we finished the parts up on Friday and dropped them off on this morning at like 6 a.m. And basically, we're on our hands and knees begging them to get them pushed through as fast as possible so we can get them taken down to the customer. And we're going to
Yeah.
drive. The customer is, we were planning on shipping them. The customer is about 2 hours away. And so, but I think we're going to drive these down to them just to, so we're just going to, because the anodizer is about halfway in between us and it's in the right direction. So we're just going to drive and pick them up and then take them straight to the company. That way we can save as much time as possible. But what made my stress go down is when we finally started making the parts, I got my time down. The last part I ran on Friday, I got it down to about a 10:18, 10 minutes and 18 seconds.
And you're making
And
like a billion of these, right?
eventually, so I'm going to be making 400 of them for the first run. And my target was 15 minutes or less. And my starting time for the very first one I ran, I want to say was like 19 minutes. And I
Okay.
got it down to 10 minutes and 18 seconds. And then I started throwing parts on Op2, and I messed up my Op2 fixture, and I had to slow things down even further. And so I got back up to about 11 minutes apart. Had to add about a minute back into it. But I'm planning on redoing everything now that I've already done it. And I'm actually going to grab a little piece of paper here because I came up with this really cool idea. Well, not a cool idea, but fixturing is fun. And I've had a lot of time to think about this, especially if I'm going to be doing a bunch of them.
These were the same parts that had the funky 5-axis toolpath issue, right?
Yes. So, not going to end up radiusing it like I was talking about last week. Never ended
that's
up
the right call.
Never figured out a good way to make that happen. But ended up getting a lot of time out of my ball milling. And so I was pretty happy with that. So these parts, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, kind of a circle with kind of a I don't know, like a gun sight looking thing. So we bought a piece of aluminum from McMaster, like a 8-inch cylinder, 8-inch round piece that's like 3 or 4 inches tall. And I should be able to stick 4 of those in that pattern on top. And I should be able to get access with all of my tooling to those 4 parts. And then potentially, I might be able to do some more drawing real quick. On the outside of it, which you can kind of see, I might be able to put Op2 on the outside, like so.
Oh, interesting.
And have the bottom side of the part facing out. And that would actually save me some ball mill time, because I'm doing Op2 in a vise. And if I can put it on the side of the part like that, there's some features that I'm ball milling that I should be able to go down with a single tool and just single pass, do it all in one go, which would speed up time even more. And so go ahead.
So you're going to have 4 parts sticking vertically out the top of the cylinder, and then you're going to have 4 parts sticking horizontally out of the walls of the cylinder, radially.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And then
that's pretty cool.
If I ever get a 0-point system going, I can have a twin of these outside, and I could have 4 parts that I'm loading, hand loading, making sure everything's perfect while 4 are running. And eventually I'd like to get into automation, but this would be the middle ground step of, doing something small scale, kind of Pearson style, loading, unloading, and it would get me down the road a lot faster without going to full-blown automation straight away.
Nice.
So, and if I'm already at close to 10 minutes for op 1, op 2 combined with my current system, bringing the parts that much closer and eliminating 4 times the tool changes, I think we'll speed things up even more. So if I could get things down to like 7 minutes apart, I would be over the moon. So, and that's why I lost that's why my stress eventually came down, because even though I lost 3 days, just with these 400 pieces, let's see here, doing math.
Math on a podcast.
Math on a podcast.
Do we need a jingle for that?
We do. Saves me 3 days in machining time. So
Nice.
So taking 4 minutes out of my part saves me over 3 days of machining time. So it basically puts me back on track for my 15-minute target. But it does mean the machine's going to need my attention a lot more because it's only running basically 10 minutes between parts. So, which is why I want to get up to 4 parts on that jig, even if I can't change the parts in and out. Hopefully it can get me up to like 45 minutes of runtime between changeovers, which if I'm under 7 minutes apart, that's not going to work. It's going to end up being like 30 minutes. So, which is still, I think, is going to pay dividends in the long run. So worst case scenario, if I can't do the ones on the side, I'm going to use, I have 2 vices on my table, and I'm going to do soft jaws in both of them, and both of them are going to hold 2 parts, like I'm doing currently. So I'll just spread that out over my table, and it'll use up the whole machine then, and I'll still get 4 parts per cycle. So, anyways, I've been thinking a lot about this, as you can probably tell. It's consumed me for a little while, but it's exciting, and I'm looking gratefully for it. So, if that's a word,
then you can buy a Speedio.
Yeah, well, so another thing that happened last week was the shop that is kind of a low-tech shop in our area. Their head machinist is kind of getting on the board with CAD/CAM, and so they asked me to program one of their parts for them kind of as a trial run to see how they liked it. And so far it's been very positive, and they bought a computer that they're planning on putting Fusion on and trying to learn.
They bought a computer?
Yeah. So it was actually the head machinist bought it personally because he wants to learn it personally after kind of learning a little bit more about it. So I'm really excited to see them kind of go in that direction. But anyways, I was over there helping them get that job set up to run, which, by the way, not a fan of the Mazax that I've used thus far. Not necessarily a fault of the Mazax, although they were relatively new machines. I was on a 2016, but they didn't spec it in such a way that it is very friendly for programming. Mainly that it had like 2 megabytes of memory, and it was kind of a pain to try to get some of the programs to fit on that. Had to break it up into a bunch of different segments.
So. Is it one of those things where you can like DNC it from the hard drive to the memory?
You can. And also it was kind of a pain because in my Haas, I just plug in my USB, move file over to controller. Oh, hey, that file exists. You want to replace it? Yes. Done. It's not that way on a Mazak. At least not the one I used. It's like, go find the original file and delete it, and then put on a USB, and then read its contents, and then go to the right file. Like every step that like happens when you plug in a USB where it just loads the content and brings it up there is like its own button press.
Yeah.
So like you put in the USB and it's like, go find the drive. Okay, it's the D drive. Okay, select that drive. Okay, now read the files. Okay, now you can see your folders. Okay, now go select that folder. Now go read that contents folder. Okay, there you have your stuff. And then it was just like, it's the same reason I like SolidWorks over like Creo Parametric. Like Creo can be very powerful, and I've used it a little bit. but it makes you want to rip your hair out because you have to go through 13,000 menus to do the most simplest of tasks. And that's what it felt like on the Mazak. And like when we got running it, and we were running the program, it was shaving the corners. Like I had sharp corners on the part, and it was
corner
radius.
rounding.
It was corner rounding them, and so on my Haas, that's a G187 P1 P2 P3.
Yep.
So on the Mazak, there was some smoothing setting, and we eventually found the menu where those options were, but there was I could load a setting. No, I couldn't load it. I could edit, I could delete, and I could add, but I could not select or load. And we messed with it forever. And eventually I just had to slow down the toolpath so that it would stop rounding the corners because we could not figure out how to select it. And there was no G command that I could find. Like I found settings, like they had the manual that we pulled up online for it, and I could find where they talked about it, and I could kind of see how it worked, but everything we tried wouldn't change it.
Interesting.
It was just a huge pain in the butt, and I just had to slow it down. So, but is what it is. Kind of the fun's learning all this kind of, different machine, different perspective. Not that I want to hate on Mazaks because everyone, when you learn something, it's kind of like people who learn Fusion hating on SolidWorks, or people who learn SolidWorks hating on Creo, people who use Creo hating on someone else. Once you kind of learn your machine and you see someone that's different, I'm sure if a Mazak user used my Haas, they'd be like, "Oh, this is dumb. It's so easy on my Mazak. Why can't I do X, Y, Z?" And so, but it was still kind of a learning curve and kind of a pain in the butt, if I'm honest. So, but anyways, worked through that, got it going, and they were pretty happy with that at the end. So
nice.
That's kind of the two major things that happened to me last week. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. What about you? Anything else besides your phone folding?
Oh, I just remembered an entire topic that I completely forgot about. I still need to do some final number crunching on this, but when I was running some parts last week, it was 21 different parts that were 3 different designs. There was a bunch of one of them, and then onesie twosies on the other 2. But I recorded a time lapse of my entire process through making all of those parts so I could do a time study.
How'd that go?
So again, I don't actually have the detailed minute to minute things yet, but I know the answer already. Would you like to guess what the number one cause of delays in AJ Land is?
Distractions.
It's scrapped parts, which I already knew.
Scrapped
over the course of that, I scrapped 2 parts, both of which were because I was using the wrong super glue. The first 2 parts were super glue work holding, and I was out of the good stuff and I was using the bad stuff, which I knew that was bad. And the first part, the super glue was too thick, and so it didn't settle down like I'm used to it. The part didn't flush up against the arbor or whatever you want to call it, and so the part became thinner by 6 thou, and that is of course more than the plus or minus 5 thou that the part demanded. And then in the other case, the part ejected itself when it normally would not have with the regular super glue. But overwhelmingly, those 2 mistakes were the biggest time losses, the biggest preventable time losses.
Interesting.
Other than that, I did not realize how much time I spent with my stupid Harbor Freight saw, and that probably needs to be replaced really quickly. Setting up the mod vices was also another really big time suck. But I only use those right now for super glue work holding because I need to hold a big plate. And so I think I can eliminate that by just making a big super glue fixture that bolts down directly.
That's one thing that I learned about using the Saunders system over at Vice was
so slow.
you know, it's a very modular, and it's really good. Like, nothing can beat it in very hyper specific situations.
Yes.
And when you get out of those situations and you're just trying to treat it like a normal vice, it is so annoying to use. It is way too much of a pain to move it around and get it situated just right. If you're running like large production runs, it's not as big of a deal. But if you're running one part or two parts and you're constantly changing size, mm-mm.
Yeah. It's fantastic when it's a big part because you just like there's no
Mm-hmm.
way I'm ever fitting a 18-inch vise on my machine. Like that's just
That's
not
true.
happening, but you can do it with mod vices. And they're like pretty good at everything. Like they're decent at all vice tasks. They are
Mm-hmm.
just not great at any of them except large plate work.
Yes, they
So
are awesome for large plate work. So they have their place.
they have their
Just
place. They have
so.
many places, but
Mm.
as you have more money, their place is when you're first getting started and you don't want to invest in one, like,
Yeah.
you're not going to spend $8,000 on 4 different Lang options right off the bat. You're going to spend $300 on mod vices,
Yes.
and it'll be a little bit slower, but it'll do everything that you need them to do.
Yeah. They're a one size fits all solution that is not great at any one thing.
Wow, it's almost like it's a one size fits all solution.
Yeah. Did you just say that?
Because
Did I
that's what
just
they
repeat
all
you?
are.
Yeah.
Speaking of one size fits, okay, so it's bad. I wrote you a song, Harrison.
You wrote this?
Monday night, September. Bring your part, show and tell. 2 p.m. in the Tormac booth. Tormac's booth is buzzing, providing coffee. This year at MTS. 2 p.m. EST. 2 p.m. EST.
I found out afterwards it is not EST, it is actually CST. I forgot Chicago wasn't in Eastern time. But yeah, IMTS meetup. Tormac booth, 2 p.m. Monday, the 9th of September. Bring a part that you can show us and each other. Parts are a really good icebreaker to start talking to other machinists. Tormac booth. Tormac is providing us, they said, coffee and other refreshments, whatever that means. And apparently we're going to get a sign.
Ooh. Nice.
Bring a friend too, so that we have enough people. So it's not just like me and Harrison and like one other person in the Tormac booth being like, thanks,
Hey,
Tormac.
we didn't bring it. We don't have as many fans. Hey, AJ's mom.
Yeah. I don't think she listens anymore. She gave up on us.
No, that's funny. That'll be good. I am so looking forward to this. The more you grow, like the more you realize what you don't know. And I just want to go to one of these events so bad and just like see everything in person and like get an actual feel for what's out there.
Play with Speedio. You can go touch your brother. Maybe. Maybe not.
Yeah. Why are you at IMTS? I came here to touch a brother. Oh, that's funny. No, yeah. That'd be fun it'll be fun to see all that stuff. So we got our tickets booked or placed, and we'll be there on Monday through Wednesday. Or I think we're heading out Thursday morning. So I think it's Monday.
Yeah,
we're coming in early Monday morning and heading out Thursday morning.
We will not be at the show on Thursday.
No.
We will also be at the With Intolerance meetup, however, at the Kern booth at some time. I asked Dylan what that time that one was at, but I don't think I saw it.
That one's on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it's on a Wednesday, and the longer I talk, the more I can stall to go. He hasn't set a time. Dylan. It is an unspecified time at the Kern booth on Wednesday.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So we'll both be there.
Cool. Speaking of like meetups and stuff, does anyone have any questions for us today?
Oh, we had one. I believe it was J. Rare. While I'm looking this up, I have a very quick story. I thought my optical comparator, one of the, it has like digital dial indicators on it to track the movement, and I thought it was broken, or one of them, like I thought one of them had stopped working, and then somebody on Instagram was like, "Hey, dummy, check the batteries," and sure enough, it was the indicator that I hadn't changed the battery on, and then that fixed it.
Nice.
So Jake Brownson asks, "Have you ever machined copper tungsten? How did it go?"
No, we just did Mokum recently for the first time.
The Moku Game or whatever it is.
Yeah, the copper, nickel, gold, silver, Damascus stuff. I believe there's just a little gold and silver in there.
Is it copper and nickel? Is that what it is?
I think it is, but I think there's a little gold and silver in there too. I don't know. My cousin looked it up.
Interesting. So, I'm sure there's various forms of it.
Yeah, I think they're just binding agents or something. But
yeah, so copper tungsten, which I've also not machined, is tungsten in a copper binder. I have not, Jake, but go talk to Fidget Things. Fidget Things has. If I remember right, it's like really abrasive to tools, as you would expect. But I think doable. It's probably also one of those things where you have to worry about the dust being abrasive.
Speaking of different materials, we're going to machine zirconium.
Ooh.
For the first time as well.
Don't set it on fire.
Yep. So this is for the guy with fidget spinners stuff that we've been doing. And he's giving us all kinds of exotic materials to play around with.
Apparently only the expensive ones.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because Zerk and the Merc are very expensive.
But this is one that we did. I don't know if I've showed this one on the podcast, but this is one that we've done for him. So
my connection's a little bit slow, so I can't quite see it. It looks like a piece of candy. Like I want to eat it.
It looks like that, or like a bow tie, is what I kind of think of it as. But they're a lot of fun. I've enjoyed these little things. So, but hopefully they sell well, so he keeps ordering them.
Yeah. So sorry, Jake. I know we did answer your question. It just wasn't the most helpful answer.
Yeah.
While we are on the theme of Jake is a Patreon, and we like our Patreons. I have a Patreon song. Oh. It's not as good as the meetup song.
Patrons, we adore you. Got our backs in all we do. Early access all the way. Join our Q&A. Shout out time, here we go. Jake B. Chris at Thought on Glow. Simon B. EJ from Nocturnal Welding. Ferrotech and Jepsy keep us rolling. Dave H. Chris, Zajic Precision. Volunteering on a mission. Ashton G. Jimmy Peacock Shine. Renato B. Scott would be so fine. Carl Alexander B. Solid as a rock. Nick Scoil Dornens around the clock. Warren C. and Eric H. Pressed out from ones to twos and systems place. Early access all the way. Join
Did it start over?
Shout out time.
It did. It started over. Or that was just the verse. I don't know. It wasn't very long. I'm not sure if that was super comprehensible, especially to all the people who are listening on double speed. Sorry for that. But that song did go through every single member, including the free members.
So tell me we have a playlist that people can go listen to these songs on.
I know. It technically exists. It's not curated. I was thinking about just posting them all as one long YouTube video.
Can you attach it to your website?
My website doesn't exist at the moment.
Oh.
But I could if it existed.
I wonder if I
I
can
like the
attach it to
idea of
ours.
dropping an album. I really want to see if we can get it on Spotify.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Um, when I was recording that tutorial series, I made
Mm-hmm.
a couple songs for that because I had some like actual machining footage in those.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Fusion tutorial, but like there was a couple places where like I was talking about the difference between a 2D adaptive and a 3D a 3D pocketing toolpath versus a 3D adaptive toolpath, conventional
Mm-hmm.
versus tricoidal milling. And so like I um, made the same part twice on my mill, and I recorded that and I showed them. Well, not side by side, but one after the other. But I made a song for each one of the toolpaths, and they came out so well. They're so funny. The
I
songs
love it.
may kind of show my bias in which toolpath to use, but
That's how it goes. Once you like, it's there's so many toolpaths that Fusion has that I haven't really played around with much that I would like to. So,
well, I go through most of them in my Fusion tutorial.
mhm. I ended up using, speaking of toolpaths a little bit, just to go off topic a little bit, the toolpath I ended up using to do those radiuses on my part was a flow toolpath.
Okay.
And it came out really good. And the main
I think it's
reason I
what we had
did,
talked about.
yeah, it's got a lot of different points that are connected to each other, like that they're the way the cylinders are, and flow just had the smoothest transition between all of them. So,
Yeah. That's because Flow uses UV curves
mm-hmm,
instead of whatever the other ones do. A lot of
mm-hmm,
the other ones break your model into basically an STL file, a
mm-hmm,
triangulated mesh. But Flow uses the YV curves of the solid model, which
mm-hmm.
can be both good and bad because literally, if you model something with a revolve versus modeling it with a fillet versus modeling it with a sweep, can all give you wildly different tool paths.
So on this part, there was a part I was going to ball mill, but I ended up being able to. So if my part was upside down and I was looking at the bottom of it, there on the inside there is a tapered wall that's at 145 degrees, and I couldn't find a tool without buying something custom to
Mm-hmm.
cut it in one pass. I'm sure they exist, but I couldn't find it with the time I was dealing with. Um, but I found out that I can come in from the top side of the part and I can swarf it while it's still on the
Oh,
5
nice.
axis. But
Yeah.
the problem is the way that geometry worked on the part, there was cuts going through it, and the swarf toolpath would kind of do these weird tilts and turns. And so I ended up recreating that geometry from scratch using their part as a reference. And I created a sub part inside their part that had that feature. And I did that and it came out perfect. So it was a lot
Nice.
more work, but that was one of the things that saved me a couple minutes of machine time of ball milling that out and just doing it as a single swarf. So there's a lot of little
Yeah.
tricks like that I did on that part.
There's like a YouTube short here where it's like, you know, level 1 fusion, you just like hit 3D adaptive and hit okay. Then it's like
Mm-hmm.
level 2 fusion and you're using like a 3D contour or something, and it's like level 3 fusion and you are like using the patch tool to patch a hole, and it's like level
Mm-hmm.
4 fusion and you're like drawing contours, and it's like level 5 fusion, and that's when you're like creating a surface model that
Yeah.
like you're creating a surface model to drive your tool paths that are yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely different levels, and I'm sure there's levels beyond that. So, but it was really cool, and um, I'm so stoked that it worked. And if my idea works with putting the 4 on there, um, it should work with all of those too.
Nice.
So, yeah, it'd be sick.
I have been slowly adopting a new workflow that I'm very happy with.
Oh, do tell.
I have been using the strategy where you rough and then semi-finish and then probe and then finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been working really well for me.
Nice.
On this last couple parts, basically every surface where I tried it on was within 8/10 of of dead nuts. And I think that's actually partially due to a calibration issue on my probe because everyone was 8/10 off. Like they were all 8/10 off, which is either just a weird coincidence or maybe some sort of like weird rounding issue with like the correction factors I have and the minimum amount where it won't correct past. But it was 8/10 every time. So I might just need to dial in my probe again. But with very little effort, getting to sub thou is very nice.
Nice. I was messing with my controller today, and I found some random PDFs on my machine, and they were a it's not, is it a ball bar test? What's the one where they put a ball in, or they put like something in your spindle
ball on the end of a bar?
Yeah, but and then they do the circle. That's called the ball bar test.
Ball bar test.
Yeah, I found PDFs of Renishaw ball bar tests on our machine when it was built from the factory.
Nice.
And it was pretty cool. Turns out our machine with a 12-inch circle was 2.4 tenths deviation on a 12-inch circle. So I don't know what all that means, but I thought that was kind of cool. So there was a couple of them. They had a couple. They did like a full circle, and then they did like a 180 back and forth, and then another one. But anyways, I thought that was really cool. And I wonder, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but have you ever heard of anyone getting their machines like laser calibrated? I wonder how much something like that would actually cost and how much of a benefit it would actually be.
I don't know, but they fill in all those, like if you've been through the parameters on your machine, they have the compensation tables for each of the ball screws, and they just fill those out.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be cool to see.
I can't imagine it's too worth it unless you're working like sub 10th or sub 2/10 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are, then it absolutely makes sense.
There are parts that I'm running that are 3/10 total range.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Are those on like diameters of holes or
diameters of holes?
Walls. Okay.
So,
but are you interpolating them or?
I am.
Wow. Okay.
I have been. I probably shouldn't be, but I have been, and I haven't had any complaints from the customer thus far. But after looking at that test, I'm going either boring bar but I can't do that at least in tool change with the size on some of those holes, because there are some holes that are bigger than 2.5
small,
bigger than 2.5 inches in diameter, and with a boring bar, depending on how it lines up, I'll probably be fine. But if depending on how it goes into that tool changer, it could be the risk of being considered a large tool. Then I'd have to give up a couple pockets for it. I haven't had anything bigger than 5 inches, so in theory they would all still tool change just fine.
Do you have a boring head?
I do not. I've never owned one. So
I would like one, but there's no way I'm finding one in ISO 20.
Yeah. Well, probably not. Are those kind of like shell mills? Can you get them where like you attach them to a different tool holder?
You get ER16. Well, the boring heads, that I think so. But for ISO 20, you get ER16 or ER16. Or power grip. You can get power grip too.
Yeah, but as long as it had a shank on the top end that you could fit into an ER16, it could work.
Yes. Yeah, theoretically. Okay. I feel like the only thing I could do is make one, though. Probably. Which I probably shouldn't do.
But yeah, anyways, it'd be kind of, I've never had a boring bar, a boring head tool, but that'd be kind of interesting to get and play around with. Because I'm sure it'd produce a much more circular hole. So
Yeah, it'll be as good as your spindle.
yeah.
I've used one on manual machines. I've never used one on a CNC.
I don't think I've ever used one, period. I don't think I've ever touched one.
Yeah,
So
way back at Purdue when I was working in the research machine shop, we'd use them occasionally.
mm-hmm. I've always wondered how you get those. I mean, I know how you get them dialed in, but like how hard it is to actually get them dialed in whenever you're trying to run them. I'm sure some are easier than others, and I'm sure there's a lot of tips and tricks that there might be a little bit of a learning curve on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to do it like repeatably, because we would just like when you're doing it on a manual machine, you just start too small and then slowly get bigger until you have the right dimension.
Mm-hmm.
But that only works if you're like making one part.
Yeah. And on a manual machine, when you got through the bottom, would you stop the spindle and then pull it off the wall and then come back up, or would you just pull it up all the way through?
I would just pull it up all the way without stopping it.
Okay. Because what you're supposed to do, from what I've seen, is stop and then turn the tool into the opposite direction of where your head's sticking out. That way, you're not scraping anything and then go straight up. So the only reason
sense,
I know
I suppose.
the only reason I know that is because I think I saw a Haas tip on the day of how to designate a tool as a boring tool, as a boring head tool.
Interesting.
And then to put its angle in. That way it can bore out a hole. When it gets through the bottom of your hole, it'll stop and back off the wall based off the orientation angle and then come out without touching the side of your part. So
makes sense.
But
I thought of something and I lost it. I really need a 0 point.
yeah.
And on a somewhat related note, do you know the Xometry credit card is now gone?
Really?
Yeah. I was going to use that with the big job I have coming up. I was going to use that to buy a 0 point so I could use that on this job. But that's gone now. No more Xometry credit card as of today.
So did they cancel yours? Like like everyone
the whole program. Everybody's.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they state why?
It was like terms of service with the credit card provider.
Gotcha.
Like I don't know if something changed on them or if they got in an argument. It was, a administrative kind of thing.
Gotcha. No warning. No, hey, just heads up, just dead.
I think they did give warning on their forum, but because I saw a post that was dated like mid-January, or excuse me, mid-June last month. But I don't go check their help form every day or ever.
Yeah, and they didn't send out an email.
Yeah.
Or if they did, I don't remember seeing it.
So I don't know. I'm glad I'm on Profit First now.
Yeah.
Because that would have been 3 months ago, that would have like sunk me because I was running my business off that card.
Yeah. Yeah, that would not have been good. How's that been going for you, by the way?
It's going. I think I said June, just the way that the checks have arrived. June ended up being a really small month for me. Like the smallest month I've had since like October or something. Like it was a ludicrously small amount of income in June. But the next week is going to be, I'm going to have a ton of money coming in.
Now, are you taking a constant amount or is it fluctuating based off of how much comes in week to week?
My own paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
It's constant.
It's constant? Okay. So like, is it staying enough in there then with the slow month?
I have not paid myself for the last week of June yet because of the slow month.
Gotcha.
But I'll make it up here when checks start coming in July.
And then have you taken profit? Like, do you have a profit account and have you had a profit week yet?
I took profit at the beginning of June.
Nice.
To start second quarter. And so I don't know. We'll use my next profit at IMTS, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we're about to have. I think this week is a profit week for us,
Ooh,
so I'm looking forward to that. But our our net 30 is really sparse right now because of this big job we got coming out, and because we got slow. And I was excited to get slow. We were able to get some stuff done, but we are going to need to get the ball going again for too long.
mm-hmm.
So, um, but I don't think I got anything else.
Wow, are we
Oh, I
not
do have.
speechless but talkless?
Um, we did get drywall up, texture, and paint in the offices at our new
Nice.
building, and we're going to be getting flooring tomorrow. So, eventually, we're going to be moving our desks out of the middle of the shop floor and into actual office space. So, I'm greatly looking forward to that. It'll be weird having an actual office.
Yeah,
I haven't
I'd say I'm used to that, but
I haven't had an office in like 3 years since my old job. So, well, it hasn't quite been 3 years, but in end of September it will be 3 years for me.
my office is almost completely redundant. Like I don't really need this room at all,
Mm-hmm.
but I have it, so I guess I'll use it. Yeah. I need to probably like reorganize everything because it's kind of a weird setup. There was like a remnant from when Scott was still here.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my desk is kind of in the middle of the room weirdly, and I think I could rearrange it so that like my back's to a wall, which would work better with the green screen.
Yep.
I can take that down until I record my next fusion class. But
It'll be nice to have office space separate from the shop space, although we are going to have to figure out a good method for getting our computers out to the machines whenever we're setting up a job, just because it's nice
just
to have it close by.
can you just dedicate a computer to the machine?
Eventually, that's going to be the goal,
Because that's what I have.
but we're still figuring it out because we're not sure if we're going to upgrade our computers at some point and then just stick the old ones out there, or if
That
we're
makes
just
sense.
gonna put a USB-C dock at every computer, and then you just bring your computer and plug it in whenever you're setting up a job. That way, you just have your main computer right there, and just have a nice dock set up at every station that you just slot your computer into. Um, they all have pros and cons.
Yeah,
Um, or having like a small computer that's just like a terminal that you can remote into your computer at the desk.
that would be the
So,
last option I would go for out of all of these.
um, the only reason I would do it that way is because then we can get dedicated towers that are far more powerful than our laptops for a lot cheaper price.
Well, you could still have if you have a fusion terminal, like some relatively cheap computer sitting out there. Like it doesn't take much to post code on like from Fusion.
No, but
But then you can still have a tower inside where you do like the major cam work.
can you be logged into two fusions at the same time? I didn't think you could.
Um, yes and no. You can only use one at a time, but you can be logged into both. And just every time you switch, it'll just like pop up a little pop up on the one that you're not using. That's what I do. Like I have my old
Really?
laptop out there. Yeah, I have my old laptop next to the machine, and I have my bigger tower in here. And whenever I'm going, like I'll most of the time I will cam up my parts in here, and then I will save it, and then I'll walk out there and I'll open it up out there and I'll
Do you,
run the
do you,
parts. And
do you close Fusion on your main computer?
no, never.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The only thing I will do is Fusion sometimes gets a little bit funky if you have the files open in both places. So the only thing I will do is close the file whenever I leave.
Okay.
Um, but no, it's seamless pretty much. Like it works very smoothly.
Interesting. I might have to give that a shot. Um, yeah, that could work. I'll have to think about that. We're trying to come up with the best plan because I'm not sure I like lugging my computer back and forth to a dock
Yeah.
constantly. Um, and I do like the idea of having a tower computer, just because of how much more power we can get out of it. A lot easier. But I do like having the laptop portability at times. So like they all have their benefits in different stages, and I kind of want a little bit of them all. But I'm not sure which method would be the best. So anyone who's out there, if they've got any input on this one way or the other, please let me know. I'm like several months away from actually implementing any of this, but I'd be curious. So,
And fun fact, you can generate toolpaths on one computer and then go back to your other computer and they will be generated there. I was having issues with that on, I don't even remember what the parts were, but they took a long time to generate on that computer out there.
mm-hmm.
And which is, that was a nice laptop 10 years ago. Like it was a really nice laptop 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely starting to, like, I'm starting to feel its age. And there was a toolpath that I would waited, I don't know, like 45 minutes to generate between every tweak. And then I came in here and it was like done.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to like protect it or anything. Like if you generate it in one place, it's good in the other place.
Yeah. I've just noticed within the last week or two that this computer's starting to be slower, and I think it's RAM limited.
Mm.
And the RAM I think is soldered on.
No. How
So
much do you have?
16.
Okay. That's what my other computer has. That should be pretty good.
It should
I think
be.
it's processor on that computer.
It's the only reason it's not is because I've historically had a bunch of Chrome tabs open, and
You're one of those.
and so I think those, because I mean even with us sitting here right now, I'm using 13 out of 15.4 gigabytes of RAM, just us sitting here,
Holy cow.
and that's just with everything just kind of just sitting there in the background.
I have 4 tabs open, and did I just disappear? Was I still there?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, I hit Control Alt Delete, and then I was like, "Oh wait, maybe that was a bad idea," because I was trying to pull up Task Manager to see how much RAM I was using. Yeah, right now I have 4 tabs open, and one of them is Xometry. I guess I'm not using that one. The other 3 tabs I was actively using for this podcast. So
Yeah,
I'm not one of the tab people.
I'm using 13 gigs, and I have 2.3 gigs that is currently cached to make room to have at least 2 gigs available.
To be fair, Zencaster uses a ton of RAM.
That could be. But I have noticed a noticeable. Maybe it's because I'm doing more 5-axis toolpaths and stuff like that. That's just eating like that. Like if I was just doing what I'm normally doing, it's not a problem. But I'm getting into more sophisticated programming, and I'm starting to notice a slowdown on toolpaths taking longer to generate.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
I'm using 16 gigs of 32.
yeah.
But a large percentage of that is going to Zencaster.
Yeah, and then are you Intel or Ryzen or something else?
This is an AMD processor, which if you're building a Fusion computer, never ever do.
Mine's AMD as well, and I know they love RAM. They eat it up. It makes a huge difference in the performance.
The graphics card on this thing and the processor has caused me nothing but issues with Fusion. Actually, I think the processor would be fine. It's the graphics card.
What do you have? AMD graphics?
MSI or something?
Or is it NVIDIA?
No, it's not NVIDIA. That's the problem.
Well, MSI doesn't make graphics. No, they don't. It's either NVIDIA, Intel, or AMD. There might be some other ones out there, but not that I've heard of.
I know the software that runs it. As you may have figured out by this conversation, I am not the one that put this computer together. That would have been Scott, because it was supposed to be a video editing computer.
Gotcha.
I swear it's MDI. Or MSI. Excuse me.
MSI, yeah, but they don't make, what they do is they take a reference design from either AMD or NVIDIA. They don't actually, like, the chip inside is going to be AMD or NVIDIA.
I don't know is the answer.
But
I can't tell you Fusion hates it. Hates it. If I open my tool library on the other monitor, it crashes my computer. My entire computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So mine's an NVIDIA with an AMD, and it's the consumer version, which so far Fusion hasn't complained about, but SolidWorks does. Anytime I open up SolidWorks, it's like, this is an unsupported hard drive. Turn back now. Or something.
Hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have some problems with, a customer gave me a part. It was like an 18-inch pipe, and they had it drawn on a napkin, and then they wanted, what was it? A 1/4-inch hole, or no, a 3/16 hole on 1/4-inch spacing, staggered. And I modeled it up in SolidWorks because I didn't want to put it in Fusion, and it came out to 68,000 holes. And my computer, like, I could have swore I saw smoke coming out of my computer while I was trying to calculate it. It took over 30 minutes to calculate all the holes and, like, make the model. And it was a lot. And yeah, it's fun.
That is how the how many holes can you fit on a penny project goes. The secret, and I figured this out working on that project. If you draw a cylinder and then you extrude all of those holes, like if you cut them from the cylinder, it would just murder Fusion / your computer. However, if you draw all of the holes and the outside of the penny in one sketch, and then you extrude everything that's not a hole, no problem. Handles it like a champ.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Because it thinks of it as one operation instead of like 13,000 operations.
Never would have thought of it that way. But I think that's about all we got. But
yeah, I tried to hit the button and I missed.
You missed.
I missed.
All right, guys, it's that time.
Really loud?
When you're adjusting, it is.
Oh, I'm failing. Here we go.
The awkward outro comes in a little bit, AJ. All right, guys, it's time to say goodbye and see you guys again next week. But thanks for hanging out with us and listening to our rambles as we kind of talk about what's going on in our worlds, and would love to hear from you guys and any questions you have for us about what's going on in your world. So feel free to reach out to either one of us, and if you got any questions that you'd like answered on air, please reach out and let us know, because I enjoy those. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. This is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Audacity Micro.